Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something pretty urgent, the failing report card of US measles elimination. Now, this isn't just some dusty history lesson, right? We're actually looking at a real-time grading of our nation's current public health status. And as you're going to see, the stakes here are surprisingly high. It really all boils down to one direct question. Has the US actually failed the measles test? I know it sounds a little dramatic, but public health officials literally use a highly rigorous grading system to evaluate our defenses against this super contagious virus. So before we reveal those final grades, let's take a quick look at exactly how we're going to break this all down. Okay, let's dive into this by looking at our roadmap. First, A conquered disease returns. Second, the elimination scorecard. Third, 4 missed marks. Fourth, 3 indicators at risk. And finally, number 5, the November deadline.
All right, Section 1, a conquered disease returns. Let's quickly shift our focus to the historical context of a disease that, honestly, most of us thought we'd completely beaten.
You know, I love timelines because they just put everything right into perspective. So, back in the year 2000, measles was officially declared eliminated in the US, which was a massive victory. We even got recertified in 2011. But then the momentum shifts. In January 2025, new outbreaks began clustering in Texas, and that specifically set a ticking clock for a huge upcoming status reevaluation that's scheduled for November 2026. And the reason the 2026 deadline is looming so incredibly large right now is because of the sheer geographic scale of the problem. Since that initial January 2025 outbreak in Texas, while the virus just hasn't stayed put, it's spread like wildfire to 45 states across the US. We're literally talking about almost the entire country experiencing outbreaks in just a little over a year.
Moving on to Section 2, the elimination scorecard. With the virus spreading like this, how do the experts actually measure if we're succeeding or failing?
Well, that brings us to the CDC measles elimination indicators. Basically, the National Immunization Program set up these 7 strict criteria. You can kind of think of this whole framework as a public health early warning system. It was specifically designed to make sure the U.S. stayed on track after taking that huge victory lap and declaring measles eliminated back in 2000.
And this brilliantly illustrates our current status. There's this brand new peer-reviewed research published in The Lancet by Boston Children's Hospital researchers Dr. Maimouna Majumdar and Dr. Ann Bishops, and they evaluated those 7 exact indicators. Guys, the scorecard is definitely startling. They found that out of the 7 indicators, the U.S. has entirely missed 4 of them. In the remaining 3, they're at high risk.
Which takes us to Section 3, 4 missed marks. We're going to do a rapid-fire look at the hard data where the U.S. is currently failing the CDC's test. Now, what's really interesting about this first one is the sheer scale of the failure. The CDC indicator requires a very low number of cases. They literally have a strict cutoff of less than 1 case per 10 million people. But as of early 2026, the U.S. had about 93 cases per 10 million people. So we haven't just crossed the red line, we've absolutely soared right past it.
The second missed mark has to do with where the virus actually comes from. The rule dictates that the vast majority of measles cases should be imported from abroad, rather than spreading internally. But the actual data? It tells a completely different story. Since the start of 2025, only 6 to 7% of cases came from abroad, meaning a massive 93% of cases are originating directly from internal, domestic U.S. spread.
Missed mark number 3 is outbreak size. The intended CDC baseline rule says we should see a really limited number of outbreaks. We're talking a maximum of about 4, with no more than around 6 cases each. But contrast that against the stark reality. Last year, the U.S. saw 48 outbreaks, resulting in more than 2,000 cases. And honestly, the pace is not slowing down. In just the early months of 2026, we've already had at least 19 outbreaks with over 1,600 cases. Our 4th missed mark is the transmission rate. So, to keep a disease eliminated, the transmission level needs to be less than 1. That means one infected person spreads the virus to fewer than one other person on average, which basically starves the virus out. Instead, the U.S. has exceeded this limit, meaning one person is spreading it to more than one other person over 75% of the time since early 2025. All right, Section 4, 3 indicators at risk. So 4 indicators are officially in the red, but we need to shift our focus to the final indicators that are, frankly, hanging by a thread. These first two struggling indicators really go hand in hand. For step 1, the U.S. is supposed to achieve a 4-week window where all infections derive from outside the country. But we haven't had a single 4-week window like that since January 2025. 90% of our cases are acquired right here. And step 2, cases shouldn't share a common viral strain, yet preliminary genetic data proves that the majority of current cases do share the exact same viral strain. That means they're all part of a continuous unbroken transmission chain right here at home.
Let's move on and see how this builds to the final and perhaps most crucial at-risk indicator, herd immunity. To naturally shield a population from measles, public health experts estimate you need 95% of people to get their 2-dose MMR vaccine. However, the average vaccination rate for U.S. kindergartners in the 2024 to 2025 school year was only 92%. And in states like Texas, the low end of that range actually dips down to 79%. So declining vaccination rates are actively threatening our critical herd immunity threshold.
Which brings us to Section 5, the November deadline. It's time to step back from all the charts and focus on the imminent deadlines and the very real human consequences of this data.
It is absolutely vital to anchor this dense data back to reality. Just listen to this warning from the lead researcher, Dr. Measles Majumdar. Babies less than a year old are among those at greatest risk for severe complications, and the full impact on children exposed during the current outbreak may only show up years later. Losing our elimination status isn't just about losing a title, right? It's about the severe, lifelong problems at stake for our youngest and most vulnerable populations.
So all of these data points, all of these missed marks, they lead right to a ticking clock. In November 2026, an expert panel from the Pan American Health Organization is officially scheduled to meet to reevaluate the U.S. measles elimination status. The Lancet data we've unpacked today serves as a crucial framework and honestly a blaring early warning ahead of this official review.
So, the crucial point is, will this data serve as the early warning we needed to correct course? Or will it simply document a finalized public health failure when that panel meets in November 2026? It's a huge question with massive implications for our future. Thank you so much for exploring this data with me today. I hope this structure made the science clear, accessible, and gave you exactly what you needed to understand the stakes here. Keep learning, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.